I'm Sarah Miller, 32, a marketing executive who always believed family meant everything. That's why I'd been helping my parents financially for years, covering medical bills and home repairs without complaint. Then came that Tuesday evening when I accidentally discovered their will while organizing my documents. My stomach dropped as I read the words, "All assets to our son, Michael." Nothing for me, nothing for the daughter who'd supported them through everything. I continued paying their bills anyway, until that text message changed everything. If you're watching this, drop a comment letting me know where you're from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever felt taken for granted by family. Trust me, you'll want to see how this unfolds. Growing up, I always felt the subtle current of favoritism running through our household. My parents never said it outright, but their actions spoke volumes. Michael, my brother who's 3 years younger, received the newest clothes, the latest gaming systems, and seemingly endless patience for his various mishaps. I still remember my 10th birthday when I received a modest art set, while months later, Michael got a brand new bicycle for his birthday, complete with custom paint job and his name emblazoned on the side. Despite this imbalance, I thrived academically. While my achievements often earned brief acknowledgments, Michael's C+ grades warranted celebratory dinners. "He just needs more encouragement," Mom would explain when I questioned the difference in treatment. I learned early to seek validation elsewhere, pouring myself into schoolwork and extracurricular activities. My determination paid off. I graduated with honors from Northwestern University with a double major in marketing and business administration. The ceremony remains vivid in my memory. My parents attended but left early because Michael had a recreational softball game that afternoon. I pretended not to mind as I posed for photos with my roommates instead of family. After college, I secured a position at a prestigious marketing firm in Chicago. Through dedicated work and creative campaigns, I climbed the corporate ladder quickly. By 30, I was pulling in a 6-figure salary as an executive director, managing major national accounts, and a team of 12 talented professionals. Michael's path looked quite different. He bounced between community college programs for 3 years before dropping out entirely. His resume became a patchwork of short-lived jobs and extended unemployment periods. He launched a landscaping business that folded within 6 months, followed by an attempt at selling nutritional supplements through a multi-level marketing scheme that left him further in debt. "Your brother just hasn't found his calling yet," Dad would say during our monthly family dinners. "Not everyone figures things out as early as you did, Sarah." Despite the obvious disparities in our life choices, I became the family's financial safety net. When Dad needed triple bypass surgery, 5 years ago their insurance didn't cover all expenses, I wrote a check for $23,000 without hesitation. When their roof started leaking 2 winters back, I paid $14,000 for the replacement. Last year, I surprised them with an Alaskan cruise for their 40th anniversary. A $12,000 gift I was happy to provide. Their suburban home in Evanston, where I grew up, needed constant maintenance that strained their fixed retirement income. Without complaint, I supplemented their monthly expenses by $2,000, ensuring they lived comfortably while I occupied a modest 1-bedroom apartment in the city to keep my own expenses manageable. My relationship with Michael remained cordial but distant. We exchanged pleasantries at family gatherings, but conversations rarely progressed beyond surface topics. The tension between us existed in unspoken glances and subtle competitions for parental attention, even in our 30s. While I funded family gatherings, Michael always arrived with elaborate stories about business prospects that never materialized. "I'm this close to securing major investment for my new tech idea," he'd announce over Thanksgiving turkey last year. Mom and Dad would lean forward, captivated, while I silently calculated how much I'd spent on the organic free-range bird and all the trimmings. My partner Jamie noticed the patterns long before I allowed myself to acknowledge them. We met at a charity fundraiser 3 years ago, and after 6 months of dating, I brought Jamie home to meet the family. "Your parents seem to view you as their personal ATM," Jamie observed on the drive back to the city. "And they practically worship your brother despite his obvious financial irresponsibility. They're just worried about him," I defended automatically. "Besides, family helps family. That's what we do." Jamie gave me a long sideways glance. "Helping is one thing, Sarah. Being exploited is another." I dismissed these concerns, continuing to transfer funds whenever requested. When Mom mentioned their air conditioning failed during last summer's heat wave, I immediately arranged for a new system installation, costing $8,000. When Dad's vision deteriorated, I covered the specialized lenses not included. In Medicare, another $5,000 gone without regret. All the while, Michael lived rent-free in their finished basement, contributing nothing to household expenses while pursuing his latest passion project, developing a smartphone app that would revolutionize dog walking according to his enthusiastic dinner table pitches. Family helps family. This mantra echoed through my mind with every transaction, with every sacrifice of my own financial goals. I delayed purchasing my own home, postponed my dream vacation to Japan, and continued living modestly while ensuring my parents wanted for nothing. This was what good daughters did, I told myself. This was love in action. How wrong I was about what love should look like. The discovery happened on an ordinary Tuesday evening in April. Spring rain tapped gently against my apartment windows as I organized financial documents with my advisor, Elaine. We'd been reviewing my retirement contributions and investment portfolio when she asked about my parents' estate planning. Have they updated their will recently? Given how much you support them financially, it would be prudent to understand their plans, Elaine suggested, adjusting her glasses. I'm not sure, I admitted. But we share a family cloud storage account for important documents. I can check if they've uploaded anything. I opened my laptop and navigated to the shared folder. Scrolling through tax forms and insurance policies, I spotted a file labeled Final Will and Testament updated January. Curious, I clicked it open, expecting standard legal language distributing their modest assets between Michael and me. The document loaded, official and formal with my parents' names prominently displayed at the top. I skimmed through the legal terminology until reaching the asset distribution section. Then my world tilted sideways. We bequeath all financial assets, properties, investments, and personal belongings to our son, Michael James Miller. I blinked, certain I'd misread. My eyes darted across the page, searching for my name, for any acknowledgement of my existence. There was a small footnote. We have provided sufficiently for our daughter Sarah throughout her successful life and career. My hands began trembling so violently that I knocked over my coffee mug, sending brown liquid pooling across my financial statements. Elaine quickly grabbed tissues, dabbing at the spreading stain while shooting me concerned glances. Sarah? What's wrong? You've gone completely pale. Words failed me initially. My throat constricted as though invisible hands were squeezing my windpipe. Finally, I turned the laptop toward her, finger pointing at the damning clause. They've left everything to Michael, I whispered, tears gathering. Every single thing. The house I've helped maintain, the car I helped them purchase, even Mom's jewelry collection she always said would be mine someday. Elaine read silently, her professional demeanor slipping momentarily to reveal genuine shock. This is unusual, given your financial contributions to their well-being. That simple acknowledgement cracked my composure entirely. Tears flowed freely now, accompanied by ugly, gasping sobs that I couldn't control. Years of sacrifice and silent resentment burst forth in that moment, flooding my apartment with raw emotion. 7 decades, I choked out between sobs. $73,000 in 3 years alone. That's what I've given them. And this is how they repay me? Elaine rescheduled our remaining agenda items, suggesting I take time to process this revelation before making any decisions. After she left, I paced my apartment until midnight, replaying countless moments when I'd stepped in to solve my parents' financial problems while Michael contributed nothing. Sunday dinner loomed 3 days away. I considered canceling, but ultimately decided confrontation couldn't wait. Those 72 hours passed in a fog of hurt and betrayal, my work performance suffering as colleagues noticed my distraction. When Sunday arrived, I drove to my parents' suburban home with a knot in my stomach. The house looked particularly beautiful that day, the lawn recently landscaped, the exterior paint fresh from last summer's renovation I'd funded. Every corner of the property contained evidence of my financial support. Mom greeted me with her usual kiss on the cheek. You look tired, sweetheart. Working too hard again? Dad called from his recliner, the premium leather one I'd purchased for his birthday last year. There's my successful daughter. How's the corporate world treating you? Michael emerged from the basement, laptop in hand. Sarah, perfect timing. I wanted to show you the prototype interface for my app. Just need to secure $50,000 in seed funding to launch. Their normalcy felt surreal given what I now knew. We moved through the motions of dinner preparation, discussing trivial matters while the will's contents screamed silently in my head. When we finally sat around the dining table, a solid oak piece I'd bought after their previous table collapsed, I couldn't maintain the charade any longer. I found your updated will, I stated, setting down my fork with a definitive clink against fine china. Silence descended instantly. Mom's hand froze midway to her water glass. Dad's chewing slowed, then stopped. Michael glanced between them, confusion evident. You left everything to Michael, I continued, struggling to keep my voice steady. Every asset, every possession, nothing for me. Mom recovered first, smoothing her napkin as though addressing a minor misunderstanding. Well, yes, but that's because Michael will need the support. You're doing so well for yourself, Sarah. So well that I've been paying your bills for years. The words tasted bitter leaving my mouth. So well that I covered Dad's surgery, Mom's dental work, this house's maintenance. Dad cleared his throat awkwardly. That's different. Those are current expenses. The will is about future planning. Planning. That excludes me entirely. My voice cracked despite my efforts to remain composed. Michael finally spoke, his tone defensive. It's not like you need their money, Sarah. You make 6 figures. I'm still trying to get my business off the ground. After 15 years of trying? The question hung in the air, sharper than intended. Mom's expression hardened slightly. We don't appreciate that tone, Sarah. Michael has artistic sensibilities. The business world isn't for everyone. The conversation deteriorated from there. Every point I raised about my financial contributions was deflected with comments about family, obligation, Michael's needs, or my supposed financial stability. No acknowledgement of inequity emerged, only justifications that felt hollow and rehearsed. I left earlier than usual, declining dessert despite Mom's traditional apple pie sitting untouched on the counter. The drive home became a blur of streetlights and tears, my vision obscured by disappointment deeper than any I'd previously experienced. Jamie was waiting at my apartment, having declined the dinner invitation to give me space for the confrontation. One look at my face told the whole story. They didn't change anything, did they? Jamie asked softly, opening arms for an embrace I desperately needed. I collapsed into the comfort offered, sobbing into Jamie's shoulder. They don't even see it. They act like I owe them this support while Michael deserves their inheritance because he's less capable. Sleep evaded me that night despite emotional exhaustion. I stared at my ceiling, cataloging years of financial assistance that had apparently meant nothing in terms of familial appreciation. By morning, red-eyed and drained, I called my therapist, Dr. Martinez, requesting an emergency session. I need help, I admitted when her receptionist asked about urgency. I've just discovered something about my family that's breaking me apart. Dr. Martinez's office always smelled faintly of lavender and old books. The familiar environment usually brought comfort, but today, even these soothing elements couldn't ease my internal turmoil. I sank into the worn leather chair opposite her desk, clutching a tissue box like a lifeline. I've been financing my parents' lifestyle for years while they've planned to leave everything to my brother, I explained, voice hollow from emotional exhaustion. I feel used, betrayed, like some kind of family bank account rather than a daughter. Dr. Martinez listened attentively, her expression compassionate yet analytical. When I finished recounting the discovery and painful dinner confrontation, she leaned forward slightly. Sarah, sometimes in these situations, it helps to quantify exactly what we're dealing with. Have you ever created a comprehensive record of your financial contributions to your parents? The question struck me as oddly simple yet profound. No, I just pay when they need something. I've never kept track. That might be your first assignment then. Before making any decisions about how to proceed, catalog everything you've contributed over a specific time frame. This gives us objective data to work with. The suggestion made practical sense. That evening, I opened a new spreadsheet on my laptop and began methodically listing every expense I'd covered for my parents. Starting with the past 3 years, I combed through bank statements, credit card records, and tax documents. Medical expenses formed the largest category. Dad's heart surgery copays, mom's dental implants, prescription medications not covered by insurance, specialized hearing aids, vision therapy sessions. The total medical assistance alone exceeded $35,000. Home maintenance and improvements came next: roof replacement, HVAC system upgrade, water heater installation, bathroom renovation for accessibility, lawn care service, exterior painting, flooring replacement after water damage. These numbers quickly accumulated to $28,000. Monthly supplements to their retirement income: $2,000 transferred automatically on the first of every month. For 36 months, $72,000 in basic support. Luxury items and experiences I'd gifted: the Alaskan cruise anniversary present, Dad's leather recliner, Mom's pearl necklace for her birthday, the oak dining table, matching wingback chairs for their reading nook, smart television with premium streaming subscriptions. Another $20,000 there. Transportation costs, maintenance on their sedan, new tires each winter, insurance premiums I quietly covered when they complained about rate increases. $7,000 more. Holiday expenses, Thanksgiving dinners, Christmas gifts, Easter brunches, Mother's and Father's Day celebrations I funded entirely while Michael brought token gifts. Approximately $6,000 annually. By midnight, the spreadsheet revealed a staggering total: $168,000 over 3 years. The number glowed on my screen, validating my sense of exploitation while simultaneously breaking my heart. Sleep eluded me again as I confronted memories of what I'd sacrificed to provide this level of support. The down payment for my own home, delayed indefinitely. The master's degree program I'd deferred twice. The 2-week Japan trip Jamie and I had planned, but canceled when Mom needed dental work the same month. Morning brought clarity through exhaustion. I scheduled an appointment with my financial advisor Elaine for that afternoon, bringing the detailed spreadsheet with me. "This is substantial," she commented, reviewing the figures. "Especially considering your own financial goals remain unfulfilled." "I've always believed family comes first," I explained weakly. "Family support should be reciprocal," Elaine countered gently. "This data suggests a one-way relationship that's impacting your financial health." We spent 2 hours analyzing how these contributions had affected my own financial trajectory. The retirement savings gap, the missed investment opportunities, the compounding interest lost on funds diverted to family expenses. "What do you recommend?" I finally asked, emotionally drained but determined. "From a purely financial perspective, establishing boundaries is essential. You're jeopardizing your own security by continuing this level of support, especially given the inheritance situation." The conversation shifted to practical steps: reducing or eliminating voluntary contributions, establishing clear parameters for emergency assistance, prioritizing my financial well-being. "This isn't selfish," Elaine emphasized, noting my hesitation. "It's necessary self-preservation." That evening, I drafted an email to my parents. Numerous revisions followed as I struggled to balance emotional honesty with factual presentation. The final version outlined my decision simply: "After careful consideration of my financial situation and future goals, I need to inform you that I can no longer provide supplementary financial support. The monthly transfers will stop immediately, and I won't be covering additional expenses moving forward. This decision comes after learning about your estate plans and reevaluating my own financial priorities. I hope you understand this necessary change." My finger hovered over the send button for several minutes before courage finally prevailed. Within an hour, my phone buzzed with my father's response: "We're disappointed in this sudden change of heart. Parents sacrifice everything for their children. Supporting family in their golden years isn't optional, Sarah. It's obligation. We raised you better than this." No acknowledgement of my years of assistance. No gratitude. Only disappointment and accusation. Michael's reaction came via angry voicemail. "What the hell, Sarah? Mom just called me crying about your email. They're on fixed incomes. You know they depend on your help. Is this about the will? Because that's really petty. They need you now, not after they're gone." Each word reinforced my decision while simultaneously triggering waves of guilt. Cultural and familial expectations of filial responsibility battled against my newfound determination for self-protection. Jamie offered unwavering support. "They're manipulating you, Sarah. Notice how neither message addresses all you've already given? They're treating your boundaries as betrayal rather than reasonable self-care." Despite logical agreement with this assessment, emotional turbulence persisted. I contacted Dr. Martinez again, seeking reinforcement for my wavering resolve. "Guilt often accompanies boundary setting, especially with family," she reassured me. "Remember that healthy relationships involve reciprocity and respect for each person's well-being. Your decision isn't rejecting your parents, it's reclaiming necessary balance." With this professional validation, I silenced my phone notifications and focused on recalibrating my financial plans. For the first time in years, my budget reflected my own priorities rather than external obligations disguised as family duty. The sense of liberation proved both exhilarating and terrifying. Freedom intertwined with guilt as I navigated this unfamiliar territory of prioritizing myself above parental expectations. 2 weeks of silence followed my boundary-setting email. My phone remained conspicuously quiet, lacking the usual stream of parental requests and casual check-ins. This absence created an unsettling mixture of relief and anxiety that impacted my daily functioning in unexpected ways. Morning routines felt different without Mom's typical text messages inquiring about my schedule or sharing neighborhood gossip. Evenings stretched longer without Dad's calls discussing home projects needing my input, which inevitably meant my funding. The silence itself became a presence, simultaneously liberating and oppressive. Guilt and relief played tug-of-war with my emotions. One moment I'd feel triumphant about reclaiming financial autonomy, the next I'd worry about their well-being with genuine concern. Had I been too harsh? Were they struggling unnecessarily because of my decision? My first test arrived. 16 days after sending the email, Mom's text message appeared casually, as though our previous exchange had never occurred. "Utility bill came in much higher than expected this month. Could use some help covering the $342 difference. Thanks in advance." No pleasantries, no acknowledgement of my stated boundary. Just expectation of continued financial support despite my clearly communicated decision. My finger instinctively moved toward my banking app before I caught myself. This pattern had become so ingrained that compliance felt almost automatic. With conscious effort, I closed the message without responding, though anxiety churned in my stomach throughout the afternoon. 3 days later, Dad left a voicemail while I was in a meeting. "Sarah, got an appointment with Dr. Levine next Tuesday for that knee issue. Insurance won't cover the specialized imaging he wants. It's only $800. Call me back so I can tell him we're proceeding." The passive-aggressive tone triggered both guilt and frustration. The assumption that I would simply cover the cost despite my clearly stated boundary demonstrated how deeply entrenched our unhealthy financial dynamic had become. Again, I didn't respond, though the decision weighed heavily. Was I neglecting legitimate medical needs, or finally requiring them to manage their own healthcare costs like other adults their age? These internal struggles affected my professional performance. Concentration wavered during important presentations. Creative ideas dried up during brainstorming sessions. My typical enthusiasm for projects dimmed noticeably. Lisa, my closest colleague and friend at work, cornered me in the break room after I'd uncharacteristically fumbled through a client call. "Okay, what's going on? You've been distracted for weeks now. This isn't like you at all." Something about her genuine concern cracked my professional veneer. Tears welled unexpectedly as words tumbled out, describing the will discovery, financial, inventory, and current standoff with my family. "I feel like a terrible daughter," I confessed, voice barely above a whisper. "But I also feel like they've taken advantage of me for years, while planning to leave everything to my brother." Lisa's expression shifted from concern to understanding. "My sister did the same thing to me with our parents. Always the favorite despite contributing nothing, while I handled everything practical and received zero recognition." This simple acknowledgement of shared experience provided tremendous validation. Lisa wasn't judging me harshly for establishing boundaries. She understood the complex emotions involved in family financial dynamics. "What did you do?" I asked. desperate for guidance from someone who'd navigated similar territory. "I stopped being their backup plan," she stated firmly. "It was excruciating. At first, the guilt nearly broke me. But eventually they adjusted their expectations and our relationship actually improved once it wasn't centered around money." Her perspective offered hope that my current difficulties might eventually yield healthier family interactions. This conversation strengthened my resolve to maintain boundaries despite increasing pressure. That pressure escalated significantly the following week. Michael's text messages became more frequent and accusatory. "Mom and Dad had to cancel their cable service because you decided they don't deserve your help anymore. Dad's skipping his medication because you won't help with copays. Hope you're proud of yourself. They're eating ramen noodles to save money while you're probably out at fancy restaurants. Real nice, Sarah." Each message twisted guilt deeper, though I noted the suspicious timing and escalating attempts at emotional manipulation. These texts arrived strategically before weekend family dinners I'd been avoiding, seemingly designed to lure me back into previous patterns. Mom took a different approach, posting vague references on social media that mutual friends would certainly recognize. Some children remember their parents' sacrifices. Others forget once success arrives, heartbroken today. Having to choose between medication and groceries this month. Never thought retirement would look like this. Each public statement received sympathetic comments from family friends unaware of the financial support I'd provided for years. These performative displays of hardship stung deeply while reinforcing my understanding of their manipulative tactics. Jamie noticed my renewed wavering one evening when I checked my bank balance while simultaneously reading Dad's text about postponing a doctor's appointment due to cost. "You're considering giving in, aren't you?" Jamie asked gently, sitting beside me on the couch. "What if Dad really needs that appointment? What if his condition worsens because I'm being stubborn about money?" "That's the narrative they want you to believe?" Jamie countered. "But your parents receive Social Security, have Medicare, and your dad has a pension. They managed before you started supplementing their income. They can adjust their spending now." Lisa reinforced this perspective during our lunch break the next day. "Your parents are making choices about their priorities. If they're choosing cable TV over medication, that's their decision as adults, not a consequence you're responsible for." These reminders helped steady my resolve as the pressure campaign continued through week 3. I maintained my position despite increasingly desperate tactics, including a call from their family doctor, clearly prompted by my parents, expressing concerns about their ability to afford necessary treatments. "While I appreciate your concern, Dr. Williams, my parents' financial decisions aren't appropriate for me to discuss with you," I responded professionally. "They have retirement income and medical coverage. How they prioritize those resources is their choice." My confidence grew incrementally as each manipulation attempt failed to break my newfound boundaries. This strengthening resolve would soon face its ultimate test. Exactly 1 month after my boundary-setting email, my phone chimed with a text message from Mom at 7:42 a.m. No greeting, no pleasantries, just 5 words that embodied our dysfunctional relationship. "The mortgage is due." I stared at those words. While brushing my teeth, toothpaste foam momentarily forgotten as a kaleidoscope of emotions swirled through me. The audacity of the demand disguised as information. The absence of even basic courtesy. The clear expectation that I would simply comply despite everything that had transpired. Water dripped from my chin as memories flooded my consciousness. Last summer flashed vividly before me, my parents' refrigerator and stove both failing within the same month. Without hesitation, I'd purchased high-end stainless steel replacements totaling $7,000. 2 weeks later, they'd announced their spontaneous Bermuda vacation, proudly showing me photos of the oceanfront suite they'd splurged on. "It was time we treated ourselves," Mom had explained while I silently calculated how many months of savings that appliance purchase had cost me. The bathroom mirror reflected my expression, transitioning from shock to determination. Setting down my toothbrush, I called Dr. Martinez's office and requested a brief phone consultation. "I need guidance on responding to a particularly manipulative request," I explained to the receptionist. "It's urgent." 90 minutes later, Dr. Martinez's calm voice provided the perspective I needed. "This message reflects their unchanged expectations despite your clearly communicated boundaries," she observed. "How does it make you feel reading it?" "Angry." Hurt. Disrespected, I admitted. Like nothing I've said matters. Those feelings are valid indicators that your boundaries are being violated. A response that reinforces your position while acknowledging your emotions would be appropriate here. We discussed various reply options, considering tone and content carefully. Dr. Martinez emphasized maintaining clarity without unnecessary emotional engagement that might prolong unhealthy patterns. Remember, Sarah, your parents are adults who managed their finances before your contributions began. They have options that don't involve you. After our conversation, I sat at my kitchen counter composing and deleting multiple responses. The challenge lay in balancing firmness with unnecessary cruelty, boundary setting with emotional reactivity. Finally, after careful consideration, I typed a response that felt authentic while maintaining necessary distance. I'm not your bank. I'm your daughter who you've chosen to disinherit. My finger trembled slightly before tapping send. 12 simple words that encapsulated years of complex family dynamics and my newfound self-respect. The immediate aftermath brought racing heartbeat and shallow breathing. Had I gone too far? Been too harsh? The anxious spiral began until I consciously implemented breathing techniques from therapy. Inhale, counting to 4. Hold for 7. Exhale for 8. Repeat until calm returned. Relief gradually replaced anxiety, as I acknowledged the truth in my response. I wasn't responsible for their mortgage. I wasn't obligated to fund their lifestyle while receiving nothing but demands in return. This boundary wasn't about punishing them, but about respecting myself. The response barrage began within minutes. Mom's indignant reply came first. How dare you speak to me that way? After everything we've done for you, we gave you life itself. Dad's message followed quickly. Your mother is crying. I hope you're satisfied with yourself. This isn't how we raised you to behave. Michael's contribution arrived with predictable outrage. You're actually letting our parents lose their house over money? What kind of monster have you become? Each message attempted to reclaim control through guilt and shame. Each accusation implied my boundaries represented moral failure rather than healthy self-protection. The old Sarah would have crumbled under this pressure, immediately transferring funds with accompanying apologies for asserting any needs of my own. The new Sarah silenced her phone notifications and continued preparing for her workday with steady hands and clearer conscience. By afternoon, missed calls accumulated. 6 from Mom, 4 from Dad, 8 from Michael. Voicemails filled my inbox, each more desperate or angry than the last. Sarah, this is your father. We need to talk about your attitude. Call me immediately. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof because of your message. Are you trying to give him another heart attack? Call me back now. Sis, you've really crossed a line. Mom's beside herself. Dad's furious. Just send the damn mortgage money and apologize. Jamie offered to screen messages that evening, protecting me from the emotional onslaught while preserving any truly important information. This support proved invaluable as the campaign intensified. On day 2 of the mortgage crisis, tactics shifted. Dad finally called with a different approach, his voice deliberately calm when I answered. Sarah, honey, I think we need to discuss this situation rationally. Your mother was upset yesterday and perhaps expressed herself poorly. The reasonable tone represented a calculated strategy shift rather than genuine understanding. I maintained composed detachment throughout the conversation. There's nothing to discuss, Dad. I've made my position clear. But surely you understand. Our financial situation requires family support, he countered smoothly. We're on fixed incomes with increasing medical expenses. You've managed your finances your entire adult lives. You'll continue managing them without my supplementary income. His facade cracked slightly. This is about the will, isn't it? You know Michael needs more security than you do. This is about recognizing that relationships involve mutual respect and appreciation. I've contributed over $160,000 to your household in 3 years alone. That contribution has been taken for granted while you've planned to exclude me entirely from your estate. Silence stretched momentarily before his voice returned with unfamiliar coldness. So you're keeping score? Putting a price tag on helping your parents? I'm acknowledging reality, Dad. You and Mom chose to leave everything to Michael. I'm choosing to prioritize my financial well-being moving forward. The conversation devolved rapidly into accusations and recriminations. Dad referenced sacrifices made during my childhood. I noted my decades of responsible financial behavior compared to Michael's continuous dependency. Painful truths emerged that had festered beneath superficial family harmony for years. Maybe we should all sit down together and discuss this properly, Dad finally suggested, exhaustion evident in his voice. Come over this Saturday. We'll talk through everything like adults. Despite reservation about another potentially manipulative scenario, I agreed to the meeting. Resolution required direct communication rather than continued text warfare. I'll be there at 11, I confirmed. And I'm bringing Jamie. Dad's disapproving grunt acknowledged this boundary as the call ended. The confrontation loomed with equal parts dread and necessity. Something would change this Saturday for better or worse. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear, mocking the emotional storm brewing inside me. Jamie prepared breakfast while I obsessively reviewed my financial spreadsheet, adding notes about specific contributions and their contexts. The document represented my shield against gaslighting or emotional manipulation during the impending confrontation. Remember, you're not going there to justify your decision, Jamie reminded me, sliding a plate of scrambled eggs across the counter. You're going to explain it one final time and then maintain your boundary regardless of their reaction. I nodded, picking at my food without appetite. I know. I just hate conflict, especially with family. Which is exactly why they've been able to exploit your generosity for so long, Jamie pointed out gently. They count on your discomfort with confrontation. The drive to my parents' suburban home felt simultaneously too short and endless. Jamie's steady presence beside me provided crucial support as we pulled into the familiar driveway. I noted the manicured lawn and freshly mulched flower beds I'd paid a service to maintain just 2 months earlier. Mom opened the door before we reached it, her expression a careful mask of maternal concern. Sarah, sweetheart. We've been so worried about you. The manipulation began immediately, framing me as troubled rather than justifiably assertive. I maintained polite distance, declining her attempted embrace as Jamie and I entered the living room. Dad occupied his leather recliner, nodding stiffly in acknowledgement. His typical jovial greeting was conspicuously absent, replaced by studied neutrality. Where's Michael? I asked, noting my brother's absence despite this supposedly important family meeting. He's running late, Mom explained, gesturing toward the couch. Something about car trouble. He should be here shortly. Of course. Even in crisis, Michael's attendance remained optional while my reliability was expected without question. This subtle inequity reinforced the very dynamic under discussion. We settled into uncomfortable silence, broken only by Mom's nervous commentary about neighborhood happenings and recent television programs. 20 awkward minutes passed before Dad cleared his throat dramatically. We might as well begin without your brother. Sarah, your mother and I are deeply concerned about your recent behavior and attitude toward family obligations. The framing attempted to position me as problematic rather than responding reasonably to problematic treatment. I recognized the tactic immediately. Let's be specific about what's happening, I countered calmly. I discovered you've chosen to leave your entire estate to Michael while expecting me to continue financing your current lifestyle. I've decided that arrangement doesn't work for me. Mom's expression tightened. That makes it sound so transactional, Sarah. Families support each other without expecting anything in return. Exactly my point, I agreed. Yet when have you supported me financially since college? When has Michael contributed to your expenses? The support has flowed in one direction only. We gave you a stable childhood, Dad interjected defensively. We put you through college. You contributed partially to my undergraduate education, which I appreciate, I acknowledged. I've been financially independent since graduation and have become your primary financial support for the past decade. That's because you can afford to help. Michael struggles financially. Mom's voice rose slightly with frustration. This circular reasoning had dominated previous discussions. Today, I came prepared with evidence rather than emotion. Opening my laptop, I turned the screen toward them. I've documented every financial contribution I've made to your household over the past 3 years alone. The total exceeds $168,000. The color drained from both their faces as they leaned forward, scanning the detailed spreadsheet categories. Medical expenses, home improvements, monthly supplements, luxury items, transportation costs, holiday expenses. Each row contained dates, amounts, and specific descriptions. "This can't be right," Mom whispered, genuine shock evident in her expression. "Every entry corresponds to bank transactions I can verify," I stated firmly. "This doesn't include gifts, restaurant meals I've covered, or smaller expenses under $100. Dad adjusted his glasses, examining the document more closely. His typical bluster deflated visibly as the numerical reality confronted him. "We never realized it totaled this much," he admitted quietly. "That's part of the problem," I explained. "You've treated my financial support as expected rather than extraordinary. Meanwhile, I've delayed my own financial goals to provide this assistance." Silence descended as this reality sank in. Mom dabbed at unexpected tears while Dad stared at the spreadsheet with furrowed brow. "We've been struggling more than you know," he finally confessed. "Medical costs keep rising. The pension doesn't stretch as far as we planned. And there are some debts you don't know about," Mom added hesitantly. "Credit cards mostly." This revelation surprised me. "How much debt?" They exchanged uncomfortable glances before Dad sighed heavily. "About $48,000 across 6 cards. "We didn't want to worry you," Mom explained weakly. "Yet you expected me to continue subsidizing your lifestyle without complete financial transparency," I noted without accusation, simply stating fact. Another uncomfortable silence before Mom spoke barely above a whisper. "There's something else you should know about Michael." Dad shot her a warning glance which she ignored. "He has a gambling problem, Sarah. Has for years. Some of those credit card debts. We took them on to cover his losses when things got really bad." This revelation struck like physical impact. The pieces suddenly aligned with crystal clarity. Michael's perpetual financial struggles. The constant emergency requests that bypass normal boundaries. The inheritance plan designed to protect someone with addiction issues rather than reward filial dedication. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, genuine hurt replacing defensive anger. "We were ashamed," Dad admitted. And he swore he was getting help each time. "That doesn't justify excluding me from your will without discussion," I pointed out. "Or expecting me to finance your retirement without knowing where the money was actually going." "You're right," Mom acknowledged, surprising me with this unprecedented concession. "We handled this terribly." "We could revisit the will," Dad suggested cautiously. "Make adjustments that acknowledge your contributions." "This isn't about the inheritance itself," I clarified. "It's about the lack of respect and appreciation it represents. I'm not demanding equal distribution. I'm requiring acknowledgement of my role in this family beyond financial utility." "What would that look like practically?" Dad asked, his tone shifting toward genuine consideration rather than defensive posturing. "Financial counseling for all. A view would be a start," I suggested. "Addressing Michael's gambling addiction directly instead of enabling it. Creating transparent financial discussions rather than emergencies and demands." Their expressions reflected uncomfortable recognition of necessary changes. This progress, however tentative, felt significant after years of entrenched patterns. The front door slammed suddenly, announcing Michael's belated arrival. He stormed into the living room, face flushed with obvious anger. Finally, made it through. "Traffic," he announced, glaring in my direction. "Hope you haven't turned them completely against me yet." His combative entrance immediately shifted the emotional temperature in the room. Mom tensed visibly while Dad straightened in his chair, paternal authority reasserting itself. "Michael, we're having an important family discussion," Dad stated, firmly. "Sarah has brought some concerns to our attention that we need to address together." "Like cutting off our parents financially when they need help?" Michael sneered, dropping into an armchair. Real sisterly behavior there. The old dynamic threatened to reassert itself immediately. Michael's victimhood positioning, parental protective instincts activating, my reasonableness portrayed as selfishness. Before this familiar pattern could fully re-engage, I turned my laptop screen toward Michael, displaying the contribution spreadsheet. "This is what I've provided in 3 years alone, while you've contributed Nothing. His momentary speechlessness provided opening for the necessary conversation. Michael, Mom and Dad told me about the gambling. This family has financial issues that need addressing directly, not through secrecy and enabling. You had no right to tell her. He exploded toward our parents, confirmation in his reaction. They had every right, I countered calmly. Just as I have every right to decide how my money is used? You don't understand what it's like. Michael's voice cracked with genuine emotion. I've been counting on that inheritance to finally get straight, to pay everything back. That inheritance depends on our parents' deaths, I pointed out quietly. That's not a financial plan. That's waiting for tragedy. The blunt assessment silenced him momentarily. His expression cycled through anger, shame, and finally, reluctant recognition. What am I supposed to do then? Vulnerability replaced belligerence in his question. Get actual help for the gambling addiction. Take financial responsibility like other adults. Build your life on your own efforts rather than parental rescue or future inheritance. My directness clearly shocked everyone present, including myself. Years of tiptoeing around family dynamics had been replaced by necessary honesty without cruelty. I love all of you, I continued into the stunned silence. That's why I've supported you financially all these years. But love without respect deteriorates into dysfunction. What I'm asking for now is relationship based on mutual respect rather than financial dependency. The room remained silent as my words settled around us. No immediate defensiveness arose. No counterattacks launched. Just 4 adults confronting long-established patterns that had damaged our family connections despite intentions. Jamie squeezed my hand supportively as I closed my laptop, signaling conclusion to my presentation. The next move belonged to my family members. Dad spoke first, voice uncharacteristically subdued. We need to make changes, all of us. Mom nodded agreement, wiping tears. I'm sorry we've taken you for granted, Sarah. Truly sorry. Michael stared at the floor, conflict evident in his expression. I don't know if I can change overnight. Nobody's asking for overnight transformation, I clarified. Just commitment to healthier patterns moving forward. The conversation continued for nearly 3 hours, covering difficult topics previously avoided. Addiction, enabling, financial transparency, emotional manipulation, genuine versus transactional support. Painful truths emerged alongside tentative solutions. No magical resolution materialized from this single discussion. Family dynamics established over decades wouldn't transform instantly, but fundamental acknowledgement of problems represented essential first steps toward potential healing. As Jamie and I finally prepared to leave, Dad awkwardly requested a hug, the first initiated from his side in years. Mom whispered tearful apology against my shoulder. Michael maintained distance, but nodded respectfully as we departed. The quiet drive home contrasted sharply with the tense journey earlier that day. Jamie waited until we were halfway to the city before breaking the contemplative silence. That went better than expected. I nodded, emotions still processing the complex encounter. It's a beginning, not an ending. Real change will require sustained effort from everyone. Including boundaries from you, Jamie reminded gently. Especially boundaries from me, I agreed, watching suburban landscapes transition toward urban density through the passenger window. Family means choice, not obligation. Today I finally chose mutual respect over dysfunction disguised as duty. The wisdom felt hard-earned yet profoundly valuable. The road ahead remained uncertain, but for the first time, it contained possibility of authentic relationship rather than financial exploitation wrapped in familial expectation. 3 months passed before significant communication resumed with my family. This period of separation proved essential for establishing new patterns and expectations. I maintained minimal contact through brief text messages confirming everyone's basic welfare without re-engaging previous financial dynamics. Then, unexpectedly, an envelope arrived containing a handwritten letter from both parents. Unlike their typical communications demanding assistance, this correspondence contained something unprecedented. Genuine apology. Dear Sarah, began my mother's distinctive handwriting. Words cannot adequately express our remorse for taking your generosity for granted all these years. After our conversation, we've been attending financial counseling sessions through a program at Dad's former employer. The process has been humbling and eye-opening. Dad's blockier script continued. On the next page, we've created a proper budget for the first time in years. Our counselor helped us identify unnecessary expenses and develop sustainable practices appropriate for our actual income. We're managing our mortgage and bills independently now. The most surprising revelation followed. We've revised our will, with proper legal assistance. While we've established a trust to help manage any inheritance Michael receives given his ongoing recovery efforts, we've ensured equal distribution and specific acknowledgement of your tremendous support through the years. The counselor helped us understand how our previous decision communicated profound disrespect for your contributions. I read the letter multiple times, emotions fluctuating between cautious optimism and protective skepticism. Was this genuine transformation or another manipulation tactic? The concrete actions described suggested authentic change rather than empty promises. A week later, I agreed to coffee with Mom at a neutral cafe midway between our homes. Her appearance surprised me immediately. Gone were the designer clothes and expensive accessories typically financed through my supplementary income. Instead, she wore simple, practical attire more appropriate for their actual financial situation. The financial counselor had us track every expenditure for 30 days, she explained, stirring her modest regular coffee rather than the specialty drinks she previously preferred. It was shocking to see where the money actually went. So much waste on appearances and temporary pleasures. Our conversation progressed with unfamiliar honesty. She acknowledged the decades-long pattern of favoritism toward Michael, partly stemming from his greater neediness and partly from unconscious gender expectations about my self-sufficiency. We treated your success as reason to expect more from you rather than celebrate your accomplishments, she admitted. While we coddled Michael's failures and made endless excuses for his behavior. The accountability in her words felt revolutionary after years of denial and deflection. This wasn't performance or manipulation, but genuine recognition of harmful patterns. Dad joined us for lunch the following weekend, bringing similar acknowledgments from his perspective. I always prided myself on providing for this family. When retirement and health issues made that impossible, I transferred that pride to you, expecting you to maintain our lifestyle without recognizing the burden it placed on your future. These conversations, while healing, didn't immediately restore complete trust. Real transformation requires sustained evidence, not temporary behavioral modifications. I maintained firm boundaries around financial assistance while cautiously rebuilding emotional connection. Michael's journey proved more complicated. His initial resentment toward my boundary setting persisted longer than our parents' resistance. The revised inheritance arrangements triggered particular bitterness until Dad facilitated a difficult conversation addressing the gambling addiction directly. I've been attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings twice weekly, Michael eventually shared during a tentative dinner together. 90 days clean so far. The program makes you confront how your addiction affects everyone around you. I owe you an apology for years of expecting rescue while contributing nothing in return. His accountability, while imperfect and occasionally interspersed with backsliding, represented significant progress from previous entitlement. He secured steady employment for the first time in years, managing apartment maintenance for a local property company with structured hours and responsibilities. My own healing journey progressed through continued therapy with Dr. Martinez, who helped process complex emotions around family expectations and self-worth. You're navigating the difficult transition from enabling to supporting, she observed during one particularly insightful session. Supporting means respecting others. Capacity to manage their own challenges while enabling involves resolving problems they should address themselves. This distinction clarified appropriate boundaries moving forward. I could express love through presence, attention, and emotional availability, without assuming financial responsibility for others' choices. This balanced approach allowed genuine relationship without exploitation. The monthly transfers that previously strained my finances now redirected toward my own security and goals. Within 6 months, I accumulated sufficient savings for comfortable down payment on a modest condo closer to my workplace. The housewarming celebration included family members who brought potluck contributions rather than empty-handed expectations. My relationship with Jamie strengthened through this challenging period, mutual respect deepening as we navigated family complexity together. Our conversations expanded to include potential future family plans, discussing how we might establish healthier patterns for the next generation should we choose to have children. I don't want to replicate my parents' favoritism or financial manipulation, I explained one evening as we discussed potential parenting approaches. Every child deserves equal emotional investment regardless of personality or achievement. Jamie nodded thoughtfully. And teaching financial responsibility early seems crucial based on your family experience. These theoretical discussions represented significant growth from my previous unexamined acceptance of dysfunctional patterns as normal family dynamics. The holiday season arrived with trepidation about potential regression to unhealthy habits under festive pressure. I hosted Thanksgiving dinner at my new condo, establishing clear expectations beforehand. Everyone would contribute specific dishes, gifts would remain modest, and financial discussions were prohibited during celebrations. To my pleasant surprise, these boundaries received respectful compliance. Dad brought his famous cornbread stuffing while Mom contributed homemade cranberry sauce. Michael arrived with store-bought but thoughtful dessert within his means. The conversation flowed naturally without underlying current of unspoken financial tension for the first time in memory. As we gathered around my dining table, the material simplicity contrasted sharply with previous elaborate holiday productions I'd financed entirely. Yet the emotional authenticity enriched our interaction beyond anything purchased with money. Genuine laughter replaced performative harmony. Real connection supplanted transactional obligation. Observing my family's attempts at healthier interaction, I recognized profound truth about relationships. Unconditional love doesn't require unconditional financial support or endless sacrifice of personal well-being. True family connection thrives on mutual respect rather than exploitation disguised as obligation. The journey toward balanced family dynamics continues with occasional missteps and necessary course corrections. Old patterns sometimes resurface during stress or crisis, requiring gentle but firm redirection toward healthier interactions. Perfect resolution remains unrealistic given decades of entrenched behaviors, but significant improvement provides sustainable relationship previously impossible. My spreadsheet tracking parental contributions remains saved, but unconsulted now. Its creation served essential purpose in confronting denial and establishing reality, but dwelling on past imbalance would prevent forward movement. The document exists as historical record rather than active scorecard, available if boundary reinforcement becomes necessary, but not central to daily interaction. Looking back on that fateful text message demanding mortgage payment without greeting or context, I marvel at how thoroughly one moment can catapult necessary change when previous years of discomfort failed to prompt action. That simple demand crystallized years of unbalanced expectations into single undeniable evidence of dysfunction requiring response. Sometimes healing begins not with acceptance, but with appropriate anger. Not with understanding, but with boundary setting. Not with forgiveness, but with accountability. These essential first steps create foundation for genuine relationship, rather than performative harmony masking exploitation. Family connections require mutual care and respect to remain healthy. When patterns deteriorate into one-sided giving without appreciation, recalibration becomes necessary for everyone's well-being. This truth applies whether relationships involve parents, siblings, partners, or friends. I've learned to honor myself while loving others. To recognize that genuine support empowers recipients rather than creating dependency. To understand that respect forms essential foundation for meaningful connection, stronger than obligation could ever produce. Have you ever experienced similar family financial dynamics? How did you navigate establishing boundaries while maintaining relationships? Your stories matter and might help others facing similar challenges. Please like this video if it resonated with your experiences. Subscribe for more authentic family discussions, and share with anyone struggling with setting necessary boundaries. Remember, you deserve relationships built on mutual respect, rather than obligation disguised as love. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength in creating the healthy connections you deserve.